Hey guys, welcome to our first real day of class. We have a big overreaching question that we're going to try to look at through all these short stories. That big overreaching question is life fair? Should we be equal? Should everybody get the same thing? We're starting that off with a story called Harrison Bergeron by a really interesting author, we'll say interesting, Kurt Vonnegut. All right, so while we're reading, one thing I want you to be thinking about is life fair? Should it be fair? The other thing is we're going to go back and look through all the major literary elements. So while you're reading the story, and I've included a PDF of the story, you just click on it, it's yours to mark on whatever you need to do with it. I want you to be thinking about several of these elements of a short story. So the major ones that we're really going to be looking at are plot, theme, characters, setting, and conflict. If you don't remember what plot is basically what happens in the story. If you go see a movie and someone says, "Hey, what's that movie about?" You're telling them the plot. Now, I have a special tool we're going to use today called a flow map to help us trace the plot. The first thing you learn with plot is this plot triangle. Some people call it a plot diagram. Don't worry, I've got a virtual one for you to fill out later. But right now, we're just focusing on the basics. So when you first start reading a story, you get the exposition. That's a fancy way of saying the introduction. That's where you meet the characters and the setting. Sometimes you get the conflict, the major problem in the story. Then, you can't just go right to the climax. You have your rising action. These are what takes your character to the climax. The climax is going to be the very most exciting point of the story. Or it could be the turning point when your character makes a new life change. All right? Then the resolution is the end. So you can't just go from the most exciting part of the story to the resolution. The author has to slow it down for you. And that's what the falling action is. So as we read, I want you to try to remember exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. All right, exposition, like I said, it's at the very beginning. This is when you get to meet the characters and the setting. This is sometimes also when the hero goes on his journey. All right, so things you should know about exposition. First is the setting. Setting is the time and the place. Our story takes place in America, but it's a very different America. Is it past, present, or future? You tell me. All right, characters. There's two main types. There's protagonists. Those are the good guys. And there's antagonists. Those are the bad guys. There's also characters that stay the same and change. So a static character is a character that's always a good guy. He never learns his lesson. Or always a bad guy. A dynamic character changes. Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol is probably your best bet with that. As you can see, school is still going strong. All right, so point of view. And again, this is a super intro. So if you don't understand all this, these are all the things we're going to be going over with our short story unit in the next couple weeks. The way a person tells a story. There's first person, third person limited, and third person omniscient. First person is like when you're playing a video game and it's just the hands. It's the I, the me. You are the person in the story. Third person is more like an Uncharted game where you see the character running around. You see the whole person. There is a limited where you only get to know that one person's thoughts and beliefs. And there's omniscient, which is like eye in the sky. And that's where you get to know a lot of different beliefs of the characters in the story. All right, next is rising action. Rising action is what takes us from the exposition, from the characters and setting, all the way to the climax. So what are the major points that happen in the story that take us to that exciting part? Conflict. Conflict is the struggle between two forces. There's all sorts. There's character versus character, character versus nature, character versus society, character versus self. There's also internal and external conflict. We'll be looking at all those as we go further into our stories. Climax, the top part of the triangle. This is the most exciting part where you're like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Falling action, this is when they start tying up the loose ends so we can get to the end of our story. So again, exposition and rising action are more at the beginning of the story. Climax is in the middle of the story. And falling action and resolution is more towards the end. All right, so for today, I feel like that's probably enough. I'm going to give you another video showing you how I want you to do my flow map. But the next couple days, you're going to read a short story, and you're just going to be focusing on these literary elements. All right, guys, good luck. Keep working.